right, meeting with the coroner, talking about budget. Introduce yourselves, please.
Okay, Tory Danner, Bannock County Coroner.
J.R. Farnsworth, Chief Deputy Coroner.
And just go through your budget.
Okay, now how do you want me to go through it? Do you want me to go through it line by line or just
Yeah.
Highlights, probably.
Highlights, whatever you,
highlights?
I mean, it
I think
looks like a lot of it hasn't changed, so.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of what we done is we increased, $1,000 for travel education, is that 1,000? And then we did 12,000 for IACME accreditation. Now that $12,000 increase, that'll only be like a 1 year. The reason for that is because we're looking to get our accreditation this next year. If we get that, we'll have to pay for them to come in. The auditors have to be flown in, and we have to take care of their stay. Basically, we have to house them. And then once we get that, that goes for 5 years. So we don't have to do it for another 5 years.
We might want to look at putting that in a different line item,
Yeah,
only so it reflects more
and I
clearly.
think that's what we discussed, is creating its own line so that we
Perfect.
can add it and subtract it. Then it's easier to track. Let's see. Operating supplies. So with the addition of our vehicle, we added an additional, I think, $3,500 for just repairs, having the upkeep and maintenance on an additional vehicle. We added $7,000 for fuel. Again, additional third vehicle.
And let me just correct you there. I mean, $1,000. I mean, you had 6,000 last year to say. Just so that as people are listening, they won't say, he's asking for $7,000 here and 35 here.
Yeah, so,
You know,
yeah, I
okay.
apologize.
So
Yeah,
I
that's
just so that as people are listening.
$7,000 total, and then it'll be $3,500 for vehicle repairs is gonna be the total.
Okay.
Then, let's see. We'll see an increase for cell phones. Total ask is gonna be $3,500. And that's calculated based on our cell phone bill this past year. The next one is going to be, we put $10,000 in there for a lease vehicle, but that was for our current lease vehicle. That sounds like that's gonna change based on the decision to pay off all the leases. Is that correct, or?
We're still talking about that.
Okay,
If we can get an invoice,
okay.
we can put that on record.
Right. So I will say the other side of that is in the fleet management is their recommendation is for us to get rid of the oldest vehicle that we have and replace that. So that's kind of why we left that lease option on there, so that if the one lease got paid off, we could re-up with the other one as a replacement, only because we don't have a plan necessarily on what you guys want to do for the replacement. So if we just need to go out and get a quote as far as what the replacement is, or how would you guys like us to?
Kyle's got that. In the front of your books, there should be a spreadsheet that says small vehicle replacement.
Okay.
Their recommendation is for a like vehicle would be $57,566. That would be a capital request at the bottom.
Okay.
Let's see. I guess the other highlighted expense would be for the addition. We talked about doing an addition for a morgue facility space. We had talked, there's been a lot of conversation about how the best way to do it is. Speaking further with Dan, sounds like we don't want to do any addition or add on to what's already there. But his recommendation was to kind of sever away from that lean-to. So if we were to build up a wall, sever it, and then clear out that space to the end. Does that make sense? Then what we would do is we would then put a steel building in its place. So I don't know. The issue that I have is I don't know what that's gonna, the first numbers that we got was kind of the, doing the new construction or whatever on that, renovation, opposed to, I don't know what it looks like to put a steel building in there or what it would take if we're still gonna fit within our numbers. And I don't know, I guess I would ask for recommendations on how we would get those numbers so that we can shore those numbers, because I don't want to say, hey, we can do it for this and then find out. I don't know what that variance is going to be in cost, but it would be something that I would like to look at just due to the circumstances that we have right now. We have a fix, that trailer's working out really nice for a morgue facility, but in the wintertime, it tries to freeze everything. And so really it's a short-term fix to a long-term problem. And I think that this is going to be, if we build something there, we put in this steel building, Dan's recommendation is if we're going to do it, that would be the way to do it, because it would be a standalone, it would be brand new, and it would last us for years. The ongoing cost I see in that is power. Outside of that, we would be self-sufficient, we would have our security and everything that we need. So the only question I have would be, how do we get those numbers? How would you guys
Where's
like
the location of the building?
So what we would do is we would take where we were talking about those lean-tos out next to my office. And then instead of adding, building it in, because they were worried about structural integrity issues, we would just sever, we would put a wall, and then basically we'd shorten it up. Does that make sense? We'd build a wall so that they could maintain the existing, and then in that open space, we would clean that out and then put a steel building in its spot.
Okay. And all I can tell you about that is we'd have, as we look at all the capital
Sure.
items and weigh them out. So if you've talked to Dan and Dan says $300,000 will cover it,
Well, and that would be my question, is because initially when we started talking about this, that sounded like that was gonna be, but I was also told not to bother with future projects, so that's kind of why I opened for your recommendation of how you would like me to figure out the funding and what that's actually gonna cost us, and if that's still within the realm of,
well, it'd just be a capital ask.
Right, but we would still need to figure out kind of what it's gonna cost us, otherwise we're just kind of shooting. I don't think we have any real numbers, is what I'm saying.
So maybe what we could do is just get through all the budget meetings, do a list of all the capital projects, kind of like we do new employee asks, and then
Yep.
just prioritize and then see what we put in the clerks and then the commission proposed. That work? And if this makes that spot, then we can get with the department and Kendall and get costs.
Sure.
How much of that lean-to would come off?
2 stalls.
2 stalls of it.
So, and the reason that we looked at that is because when initially he says, well, this would be the way to do that, what we're then faced with is if we did tear it off and put a wall up, well, then you've shortened the space, right? Because if we do put another steel building in there, it can't be butted up next to, it's got to have some distance between, which shortens the area that we were originally talking. So we talked with Kyle and he said, yeah, we can go to the second stall. And so what'll happen is you build a wall on the end of that just to kind of keep what's there. Then there'll be a certain amount of footage from that wall and then from this building, and the steel building will go in there. So it'll be a completely separate building, but it'll be a standalone on its own. But I don't know what those parameters are exactly. I just know that it cannot be butted up next to either structure.
Yeah.
Due to that and due to accomplishing what we're looking to, because we're looking to have the space for the cooler facility in there, but then also a place that we can house our trailer so it's out of the weather, it's still, everything is pretty much self-sufficient. And this would be the last thing that we would need to finish up our accreditation and to be able to do everything else. And then, as far as I can tell, years to come budget stuff, the only increases I would need or even be able to see would be normal inflation that's outside of our, but that would make us 100% self-sufficient. We'd have our own morgue facility, we got our own transports, we have our own, I mean, we would be doing the job that we're supposed to be doing. Right now, the biggest issue that we face, anytime we have to go, if it's inclement weather, we're in a public view, or we need to kind of take our decedents, we have to go back and, you know, better lighting, do something of that nature. We're utilizing funeral homes at this time, and that is by their grace. They're allowing us. The problem that I see is if we are in there and we're looking at this person and we end up having to go to autopsy and this, you know, turns into maybe a criminal case or whatever, now we're taking back out of their facility, we're gonna go secure it at our facility, and they're not getting compensated for the time that they already came out, opened their facility up. I mean, we basically just opened up their kitchen, made a mess, and then left. And we're not covering it. We're appreciative, but really and truly, we should have a facility to do that. So that the idea is if we have this facility, we would be able to do that. And then if we decide, hey, we need to go to autopsy from here, it's just, let's roll them in, we'll secure them. Or we could release them from there to the funeral homes. That's gonna honestly be the better way to do that, because then we're not having to try and guess. It gives us more time and ability, but we're again self-sufficient, because right now, and I appreciate all the partnerships and everything that everybody's done, but at the end of the day, we've went in and we're 24/7, so it's not ever convenient for these guys. And I just think that
I had a pretty good discussion with Kyle the other day too, and he has, well, both have a little bit of concerns.
Okay.
We're taking away covered shelters that we already have built.
Sure.
That are utilized for storage and stuff, and so I'm not sure that this is the best location.
Okay.
Of where we need to be and stuff too. I kind of caution tearing stuff down that we already have. If we have other facilities or other directions.
Sure. And I'd
So
be
that's
open.
something that we need to look at too.
Okay.
There's a whole remodel and everything else that's gonna go on out at the landfill in that area too, so I don't know what all we're gonna end up doing.
Okay.
So it'll just be an area that we'll look at when we look at capital projects.
Okay. Well, any other questions on that?
Anything, John? Nope. Nope, thank you.
Any other questions in regard to budgetary items? I mean, I know that you guys have looked over this. A lot of this is the same. We really haven't done a ton of increase. We did increase, again, I said, education, travel, things like that. We do have more opportunity to do in-person training now, which wasn't always available due to, I don't know if it was just coming out of COVID. We're just barely coming out of more in-person trainings and stuff now. That's gonna cost us a little more money, so we wanted to make sure that we're appropriately looking at that.
Okay, travel and education both,
That's correct.
okay? And like I told these guys, my goal is to do a 3% increase on salaries.
Okay.
So we'll see how everything fits.
Well, that's been our goal, is to try and figure out what it takes to run this office, right? And that's year to year, but I think that we've been pretty good about trying to work within the scope that we've been given. So,
Okay?
all right. Thank
Anything
you,
else?
guys.
Thank you. GIS. $27.
This GIS.
All right, please introduce yourself.
Heather Studley, GIS manager, and I don't have a whole lot for my budget stuff that is going to be far different from where we've been in the past. Always ask for a step increase for my employees because we'd be in a world of hurt without them, so that just seems like a polite thing to ask.
I'm sorry, what's that again?
Step increase for employee salaries. I know that there has been some talk of revamping how the step increases work, more of a, not quite merit-based, but a different policy, but that's a discussion for a later time, I believe. I think the only major increase I have is just for travel budget, and that's just because travel is becoming more expensive. I do try to budget enough to send 2 people to 2 different conferences each year. These can vary from small local events, which are obviously less expensive, to more software-specific events. All of our asset management, permitting, the GIS software that we use, all of these different companies host events specific to them that tend to be very beneficial to attend to. So there's just a variety of things. And I would like to be able to send 2 people, 1 each, to different events if I can. So that's the increase in my travel budget. It is just more expensive to travel right at the moment. And I believe the only other thing I have on here that is new is, I don't know if I didn't actually make that on here. I would like to do a slight office remodel. Some new desks more than anything else. We have height variations. I'm 5'4" at the short one. I've got one person in my office right now who's 6'4". If we could get some newer desks that maybe had some height adjustments built into them so people can sit up where they need to be, it would be nice.
Have you priced any of those?
I have.
So what you looking at?
Somewhere between $4,000 and $9,500 depending on who we go with.
Each?
Total.
Oh, thank you.
If you want. So this is looking at 5 new desks and, if possible, like a couple of bookshelves. Just make the office look cohesive and not the...
So how many employees you have?
3 and 2 halves. I have 3 full-time people, a part-time person, and then we have a rotating intern. We usually get 2 or 3 a year.
Okay.
What's this $3,000 for contract labor?
That is a supplement for my interns. It allows me to bump their hourly rate just a little bit, about $5 an hour. From what, so ISU will cover up to a certain amount depending on what level of degree they're working on, and this just helps give that a little bit extra. It makes us a little bit more competitive. Before I did that increase, I was having a very, very difficult time getting interns.
And that's a case-by-case deal where we have to approve it, this commission. On your travel, so I'm just kind of comparing you with some of the other departments. Where do we get $8,500 worth of benefit?
Continuing education is the biggest one. I myself have the GISP, which is the GIS professional certification. I have to participate in a certain number of events every year to continue to qualify for that. And of course, there's always education opportunities, networking opportunities, things that you just don't get online. We take advantage of free online education regularly. This is just to kind of get that networking and that in-person experience.
Okay. I just see it each year, it keeps increasing.
The cost of travel keeps increasing. I wish it didn't. You can't find a hotel for less than $200 a night anymore. Even a couple of years ago, that wasn't the case, so.
Just ask John.
Well, I think you can.
No, the one that you was talking about earlier.
Yeah, but
That was at the resort.
You know, there's the lovely Airbnb I found not too long ago. That was $750 or $7,500 a night. I could always. I want to know what those ones are like.
County's not paying for that one.
No. I'm not paying for that.
Okay. Questions?
No, I don't have any.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
What line was you gonna put?
The desks I would
on?
put under 424.
424.
00. And then, if you want to look at that, then I can make some.
I have extra copies of that too.
Oh, you do?
Yes. Okay,
Okay,
anything
thank you.
else? Okay, thank you, have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
For a whole bunch of.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I'll go get
Are we on
I'm telling you,
recess?
we get one.
What's that?
Yeah.
I'll go to